Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, FY 2021 BJA Hate Crimes Funding Opportunities, hosted by the Bureau of Justice Assistance. At this time, I would like to introduce you to today's presenters. Betsy Griffith, Associate Deputy Director with the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Anumar Malik, Pathways Intern with the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Good afternoon. I'm Betsy Griffith, and I am with the Bureau of Justice Assistance, who's offering 3 funding opportunities at the moment to support the important issues facing our communities around hate crimes. Today, we're going to spend a little time talking about BJA and the Office of Justice program, where these funding opportunities and other resources are being made available to support those of you working on these issues in the community. We will talk specifically about 2 different site-based solicitations that we have currently available. We will spend some time talking about eligibility for the programs, specific grant requirements, and we'll review what information we need from you in order to consider your application for funding. We'll also spend some time reviewing a solicitation that we have for national training and technical assistance. We're looking to find a national partner to work with and talk through those requirements. And we'll finish with some top application tips and spend some time talking about how to contact us and resources that are available to be able to support your program and any technical issues that you might be having as you're putting your application together. I will mention before going into Q&A that as part of the resources we'll be mentioning in the presentation, we'll also talk about some other federal agencies that are particularly in the Department of Justice that are also supporting this work and are also available to work with you. And finally, we'll make some time at the end to answer questions. The opportunity today is part of work of the Office of Justice Programs at the U.S. Department of Justice. BJA is one of several bureaus in the Office of Justice Programs, and I'll talk about BJA in a moment. But overall, OJP provides grant funding both at the adult level with BJA, with juvenile justice agencies at the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention to help address the needs of victims of crime at the Office for Victims of Crime, working with sex offender management at our SMART office, and finally supporting research at the National Institute of Justice and statistics through the Bureau of Justice Statistics, including some data that we'll share today, and some other funding opportunities and support these offices offer, as well as resources through the Office on Violence Against Women, and in particular, some new training that's available for law enforcement that has been recently piloted by the Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, or COPS. BJA, who's overseeing these 3 funding opportunities and our response to supporting hate crimes, is part of our mission to provide leadership and services both in grants and training and technical assistance in order to support you as you develop criminal justice policy and responses at the state, local, and tribal level, with the goal of really being able to prevent and achieve safer communities and to respond to crime. I did want to take a moment to highlight some of the priorities of the Biden administration, which are very much aligned with the program that I'm going to be talking about. Funding through BJA is really aligned with those administration priorities, and in particular, we're focusing on developing and sustaining strategies that address violent crime, including the concerning increase in hate crimes that we've been experiencing. In addition, we focus on ensuring a fair criminal justice system, including strategies that address both of these goals. We plan in this program to work with law enforcement, prosecutors, and their partners, working with victims and communities to really tackle hate crime by those whom it disproportionately impacts through collaborative approaches. We are also focused on strategies to be able to prevent violent crime and combat it, particularly here with regard to hate crimes. And we also want to make sure that there's access to justice for communities and victims, including overcoming barriers such as language barriers or lack of trust that really affect the ability of law enforcement and prosecutors to be able to work to solve these issues. I'm going to turn it over now to Umar Malik, who will provide some background from the Bureau of Justice Statistics, our sister agency, and talk in more detail about the funding opportunities.
Thank you, Betsy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Umar Malik here from the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and I will be going over some background information. So the Bureau of Justice Statistics released a national crime victimization survey that was completed in 2015. And what was important about this in relation to our hate crimes program is an average of 250,000 hate crime victimizations were reported each year from 2004 to 2015. About 54% of these hate crime victimizations were not reported to police during the 2011 to 2015 period. Next, I will be going into specific information about our hate crimes program. BJA is committed to addressing the precipitous increase in hate crimes. This includes public awareness, reporting of hate crimes, enhanced law enforcement and prosecution strategies to prevent and respond to hate crimes. Applicants are encouraged to collaborate with community-based partners in state, local, and tribals to form collaborative approaches or task forces that can help address the concerns and needs of affected parties. This can include strategies to help trust and reporting of incidents to law enforcement, and to overall help with expanding outreach and education to the public and those who are impacted by these crimes. Now I'll be going into specific information about two site-based solicitations BJA has released. We currently have two solicitations, as you can see here, that we are accepting applications for until July 13th, 2021. Now I will be going into specific information about what is required in terms of submission and what we are looking for in terms of eligibility and overall requirements. Specifically, program objectives for both of these site-based solicitations, we are looking for applicants who are able to build strong collaborations between law enforcement and prosecution and community-based organizations. We are looking for applicants that can expand and enhance strategies. This includes tools, policies, and procedures to help with increase of reporting, identification, and charging of hate crimes. In addition, we are looking for applicants that can enhance the capacity of law enforcement and prosecutors to prevent and address hate crimes. This is through education, training, tools, outreach, and specifically investigation and prosecution of hate crime cases. In addition, we highly encourage the collaboration between federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement and prosecution agencies when they are investigating and prosecuting these specific hate crimes. Next, we are going to cover eligibility for both these site-based solicitations. Now, the eligibility is consistent for both of these solicitations. The only important thing to note is that for both of these solicitations, tribal law enforcement and prosecution agencies must be federally recognized Indian tribal governments that perform law enforcement functions. In addition, it is important to note that for the collaborative approaches towards preventing and addressing hate crimes solicitations, applicant must use a collaborative approach. This can be through a task force or any other partnership with agencies and nonprofit organizations with expertise to help support the project. Next, we are going to go into other program requirements. So specifically for the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crimes Program, we are looking for applicants who are highly encouraged to partner with schools, colleges, and universities, and who are looking to coordinate with community-based partners at a state, local, and tribal level to help form collaborative approaches or task forces that can help to address the concerns and needs of all affected by hate crimes. This will allow strategies to increase trust, reporting of incidents to law enforcement, and to overall expand outreach and education to the public and those who are impacted by these crimes. For the collaborative approaches solicitation, it is important to note that funds must be used to combat, address, or respond to the precipitous increase in crime or in the type of hate crime. This can be done through documenting and identifying the hate crime, specifically the type of hate crime that has increased precipitously, and in addition, the proposed solutions. Applicants must identify the period of time during the relevant hate crime that has increased and provide evidence that supports their claim. Now, when it comes to the award information for the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd site-based solicitation, we are hoping to fund about 13 applications with the maximum of $300,000 per award for a 36-month period of performance. For the collaborative approach to solicitation, we are hoping to fund 4 awards with the maximum of $750,000 per award for a 36-month period of performance. Next, I'm going to go into some information about budget. Now, when it comes to allowable costs that are included, these include resources for outreach, education, reporting, identifying, investigation, and prosecution of hate crimes. Applicants should outline these expenses on an annual basis with the budget worksheet that is attached to the solicitation that must be completed. We will go into a little bit more information about this budget worksheet later on in the presentation, but it's important to know and outline all the expenses on an annual basis. This solicitation does not require a match, but what is important to note for the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd hate crime site-based solicitation is that applicants must submit a budget that is limited to no more than $100,000 per year. Next, we are going to go into information about the applicant sections that must be included. Later on in the presentation, we'll go into specifics on what should be included in each section, but in general, applicants should include the SF-424, the program abstract, the program narrative, budget detail worksheet and budget narrative, if applicable, the indirect cost rate agreement, tribal authorizing resolution, financial management and systems of internal controls questionnaire, and an attachment of the disclosure of lobbying activities, which is the SFLLL form. On the next slide, I will go into some additional attachments that should be included when you are submitting your application. Now, these specific additional attachments include a time task plan. This time task plan will outline your goals, objectives, summarize your major activities, and your expectation of the completion of these specific major activities. It is important to also attach resumes and job descriptions of each key staff that will be funded under this grant. In addition, letters of support and memorandum of understanding for key partners should be attached, as well as research and evaluation independence and integrity form, and if applicable, documentation of advancing DOJ priorities should be attached. Now we're going to go into a little bit of detail of what should be specifically attached per section. So for the abstract, you should include a summary of your primary activities, products, deliverables, and what your proposed plan will be. This must clearly include applicant name, project period, total funds requested, and key partners for the project. Now, when it comes to program narrative, each section is scored differently. So there are 5 core sections that we will be scoring you based off of. Each section within the solicitation has specific details in what you should be including in each of these sections. So for the example, the description of issue, if you refer back to the solicitation, you will be able to see what exactly we are looking for and what you should be answering when it comes to the description of the issue. Each section is weighted differently. So as you can see on the sides, the description of issue is weighted 25% out of a total of 100. So each section does have a different weight system and scoring. So it is important to take that into account. And it is important to review the solicitation to make sure you are completely addressing each section and answering each question that goes with each section. Next, for the budget and budget narrative, make sure each item is indicated for each year on the budget narrative worksheet. There is no match required, but it is important that any prior approval, planning, and reporting of conference, meeting, and training costs are also included on this budget narrative. Next, I will go into the training and technical assistance portion of our presentation, which will include one training and technical assistance solicitation that we also have released and are looking for a training and technical assistance applicant for funding. So, as I mentioned, BJA has released a training and technical assistance solicitation, and it is currently open until July 13th, 2021. So now we'll be going into a little bit specific information on what we are looking for in this training and technical assistance provider. So eligibility, as you can see, these are all the applicants that are eligible. It is just important to note that for-profit commercial organizations or nonprofit organizations and these faith-based and community organizations do demonstrate expertise in assisting communities and implementing hate crimes investigations. Institutions of higher education are also encouraged to apply as they are demonstrating expertise in assisting communities and, again, develop and implement hate crime investigations. BJA specifically is looking for applicants to provide training and technical assistance that have expert knowledge of associated work on hate crimes reporting, identification, and responses, including investigation and prosecution. Extensive experience in developing technical assistance is also what we are looking for. We are also looking for a training and technical assistance provider who has expertise in identification of best practices and is willing to work with BJA and other partners as a member of a training and technical assistance collaborative. Specifically for the training and technical assistance hate crime solicitation, we are expecting to make about one award with a maximum of $650,000 for a 24-month period of performance. Next, I will go into other hate crimes related resources we have here at the Department of Justice and specifically at BJA that you will be able to reference that has more information about overall resources in relation to hate crimes. So the Department of Justice has a website which is a centralized location for all information regarding DOJ hate crime resources. This includes funding, training and technical assistance, as well as other resources that are offered by federal law enforcement and litigating components. It can be accessed at this link below, as you can see. Next, I will go ahead and turn it back over to Betsy, and she will go into a little bit more detail about our DOJ hate crimes webpage.
Thank you, Umar. I really want to just emphasize that this page reflects a larger commitment around the Department of Justice as part of our Department of Justice Hate Crimes Initiative to really think about how we can coordinate across the many components in the department to be able to support issues that are happening in local communities. And a couple of things I wanted to mention in particular is that if you are working at the local level, we really encourage you to build a relationship with your local Federal Bureau of Investigation office, as well as your U.S. Attorney's Office to be able to coordinate these activities. The U.S. Attorney's Office is really our, local law enforcement leader and can help you then coordinate and connect with other litigating components, including civil rights and our criminal division, who are also pursuing hate crimes under the federal hate crime opportunity. So there's really a chance to be able to collaborate and think about the many tools that might be available with you on particular cases that are happening. And so there's information on this website that really gives you a sense of that. We also recognize, and we'll talk a little bit about some funding opportunities that are out there through our sister agency, Office for Violence for Victims of Crime, to be able to support the needs of victims. But in addition, I do want to mention a pretty unique section that we have in the department, a wonderful partner for us, the Community Relations Service. These are folks that are really trained to be able to help work on mediation and relationship building, and particularly where there has not been trust. They'll often go in when there's a difficult situation and be a resource. And so CRS, Community Relations Service, is also a potential resource for you as you're really working on your efforts to build trust with communities and particular groups in your community who may be at risk for hate crimes. And then I'll turn it back to Umar to talk about a couple of other funding opportunities and resources that are currently available, and then to close this out with some tips.
Thank you, Betsy. So now I will be going over a comprehensive report that was released by the COPS office. And this was a hate crimes Pretty much this was a course that was released to enhance law enforcement's response and patrol officers' response to the ability to recognize and report hate crimes. This includes addressing victim needs, reporting incidents, and building community trust. This is a very important resource. I do recommend when you guys do have a chance to visit our COPS office resource website, specifically the hate crimes resource website, and you will be able to read more about this report and kind of learn about how they have addressed the identification, investigation, and reporting of hate crimes with law enforcement. Next, so as Betsy mentioned, the Office for Victims of Crime has also issued a solicitation titled Services to Support Victims of Hate Crimes and Strengthening Communities. This solicitation is hoping to serve and support victims of hate crimes and communities that they serve by promoting awareness, healing, reconciliation, service access, and or resource development. This solicitation is currently open as well. So if you are also interested, you can learn more about the opportunity with the link provided below to learn more about what is required when submitting your application and more information about what we are looking for in terms of eligibility. You can definitely visit this link below and you will learn more about this solicitation. Next, BJA also has a hate crimes webpage. This webpage will allow you to gain more information about the overview of our hate crimes program here at BJA. So I definitely encourage you to visit that webpage if you do have any questions about the overview of our program. Next, I will be switching gears to application tips and some support information if you do run across any technical issues and who you should be contacting if you do run across these technical issues. So now specifically for application tips. So as you are completing your application, specifically the SF424 worksheet, make sure you review and are ensuring that the legal name, address, and DUNS number are correctly inputted into this SF424 form. When we are processing awards here at OJP and BJA, we use sam.gov to confirm active registration. So make sure all your information entered in the SF424 are accurate and match the information for your entity that is written on sam.gov. So just make sure all of that is correctly inputted and both of the information on the sam.gov entity registration form and the SF424 both match. In addition, just make sure that the authorized representative that you have listed should have the authority to sign and accept grant agreements. Now, when it comes to specifically funding, make sure that the federal request amount that you have listed on the SF424 matches the amount that you are requesting, and it also matches in your budget worksheet and proposal. In the solicitation itself, there is a budget detail worksheet template that should be completed. This is required, and when you are completing it, please take into account, as I mentioned before, that per year, $100,000 for the James Byrd solicitation, site-based solicitation, you are including that it should be $100,000 per year for the 36-month performance period. In addition, for budget, make sure that your funding is, again, consistent with allowable activities. Next, when it comes to filling out your application, there is a section in the solicitation that is titled What an Applicant Should Include. I highly recommend you review this section to ensure that you are attaching all necessary attachments that we are requiring, and you are just making sure that everything you are submitting is correctly attached and is correctly covering everything you hope to achieve through this funding. In addition, it is important to note that the disclosure of pending applications is required for all applicants, so make sure you are filling that out as well as you are including your time task plan that outlines your goals and your deliverables for funding. Next, BJA is utilizing a brand new system in 2021, so it is important that you do not wait until the deadline to apply. The SF424 and SFLLL, which will be submitted through grants.gov, must be submitted 2 weeks before the full application is due in the Just Grant system. This means that applicants should, as soon as possible, go into grants.gov, get registered, and this will allow you more time to work on your complete application and being able to submit it in a timely fashion through Just Grants on our deadline of 11:59 p.m. Eastern on July 13th, 2021. We have had previously held webinars that do contain a lot of important information when it comes to first steps in applying, how to prepare to apply, other considerations, and to help you navigate through grants.gov and Just Grants, since these are newer systems. So I definitely recommend, if you guys do get a chance, to go ahead and access the presentations. You can read the transcripts or you can watch the recording to just get comfortable with the system, so that if you do run across any issues, you are able to use the resources we are providing so that your application process goes smoothly. We do have links provided for these past webinars and any upcoming webinars that would be hosted. In addition, Just Grants itself does have e-learning videos, job aids, and an application checklist that contains other resources that might be helpful for you guys if you guys have any questions when it comes to applying, when it comes to locating your application, submitting your application, or even after submitting your application, what are the necessary next steps. So I highly recommend you review these resources provided by Just Grants so that it can aid you in submitting your application, and you are able to follow these checklists so that you are ensuring you are including everything that is required in the application you are submitting. Next, DOJ also has an application checklist that you can see on this page. And this checklist is important because it covers all the necessary steps to complete the two-step process, as I mentioned, the grants.gov portion and the Just Grants portion. So this checklist is important because it also helps you prepare to apply, and it helps you with onboarding, completing, reviewing, certifying, and submitting your entire application in Just Grants, and submitting the initial SF424 and SFLLL in grants.gov. So I highly recommend you also visit this as a resource if you need any tips or need any help with your two-step application process submission. Just Grants, as I mentioned, also does have, you are able to access their recordings, slide decks from previous webinars. You can also refer to the Just Grants training application submission page. This will provide you additional information and training on the application submission process. I highly recommend you bookmark the Just Grants training page for any updates as updates do come along. Now, this page is very important. So this is the important contact information for each issue that you might face. So if you have an issue in grants.gov when you are submitting any technical issues when it comes to submitting your SF424 and SFLLL, this is the specific information that you are able and who you are able to email or call by phone to be able to help you with these technical issues. If you have any technical issues when it comes to submitting the full application in Just Grants, here is the support email as well as the contact phone number. And if you have any technical assistance or questions, or if you need technical assistance or have any questions with programmatic requirements, you can contact the OJP Response Center here as well. This is their email and phone number. I will later on go into their specific times that they are available. You are able to contact them, so that will give you a better understanding for when is the best time to contact them. So the Just Grants system technical support is here to help you with any technical assistance with submitting your full application. If you come across any issues while you are working on submitting your full application, whether it's with attachments or your full application itself, we highly encourage you to contact as soon as possible the Just Grants support technical center, either by phone or email. They are available Monday through Friday between 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, or Saturday, Sunday, and federal holidays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, as I mentioned, if you were having any issues or technical issues with submitting your SF424 or SFLLL form, grants.gov technical customer hotline is here to help you. They are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except on federal holidays. They have a support phone number as well as an email that you are able to email them or call them with any sort of technical issues you have when you are working on submitting your submitting your first steps of the application. Now, as I mentioned, OJP also has a response center that is here to providing support, any solicitation or general assistance support. They also have an email, web chat, and a toll-free number you are able to reach them at, as you can see. And their hours of operations is between 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. You can also subscribe to receive email notifications of any new funding, opportunities, or other resources. You can sign up to receive these twice monthly, Just Info newsletter, and that is the specific website you can visit to go ahead and receive these newsletters that are sent twice monthly about any new funding opportunities or other resources. What is very important, a very important note to take into account is that if you have any technical issues while you are working on submitting your entire application through Just Grants, it is important that you not only contact the Just Grants help desk, but you also contact the OJP Response Center so that we can accurately document and work on resolving any issues you have. You should receive a ticket number, and this ticket number will help us track any updates to your application and help you with resolving any technical issues you come across. So as soon as possible while you are working on your applications and you come across any issues, we highly encourage you to reach out to the help desks so we can help you accordingly. Now, as I mentioned before, BJA is utilizing a new system, so make sure if you run across any issues at all, as soon as possible, you reach out to Just Grants, grants.gov, or the OJP Response Center, and make sure that when you, again, as I mentioned, if you have any technical issues when submitting your entire application, you are not just contacting the Just Grants help desk, but also the OJP Response Center so that we can accurately document your issue and help you as needed. You will, as I mentioned, will be provided ticket numbers, so make sure you are keeping track of this and you are documenting all issues that you do come across. Please also make sure that you contact us before the application closes if you do come across any of these issues, and you do contact us one day after the applications have closed for any updates on late applications. We do accept late applications on a case-to-case basis, so please, we highly encourage you guys to, as soon as possible, to go in and try to complete your application. So if you do come across any of these technical issues, we are able to assist you prior to the solicitation closing. You can also stay connected through our email updates. You can text OJP your email address to 468-311 to subscribe. We also have social media pages that you can see here for Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to stay up to date. In addition, if you have any questions or want to gain more information about any funding opportunities, publications, initiatives, you can always visit the BJA website at bja.ojp.gov to find out more information. For FY21, we also have resources for funding opportunities. These are the links directly to get you to the specific resources. So we have the BJA website, the Just Grants, grants.gov, OJP Grant Funding Resource Center, Office of Justice Programs, award data, and the NIJ's crimesolution.gov. So I highly encourage you guys to visit these websites as needed when you have any questions, are trying to gain more information, or need any assistance in resources. These are the websites you should and are able to visit to help gain these resources. Again, just an emphasis on these resources. These are the web pages, so you can visit them directly if you have any questions, or if you just want to gain more information about BJA and our program, you can definitely visit our website as well. All right, that is the end of my presentation. What I'm going to do is now we are going to switch it over to the questions and answers portion. So if you guys do have any questions, you can submit it in our Q&A box. It is on the bottom right-hand side. If you click the three dots in the corner that says panel options, you should see a Q&A box. You can submit all your questions there, and just make sure you are selecting all panelists so that we are all able to see it and answer your questions accordingly. I will go ahead and turn it back over to Betsy. If Betsy, you want to add anything else, or if you want to just go straight into the questions and answers portion.
Thanks, Umer. And I think what I will highlight is that we did have one question that came in, and I provided a written response, but I wanted to maybe use this as an opportunity to talk a little bit about the two funding opportunities and the basis we're very pleased that this year, for the first year, Congress did appropriate funding for this new grant program under the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crimes Act, which also authorizes a number of the other federal activities at the department I was highlighting earlier on. We recognize that there's significant needs that communities have and that we can be helpful by funding activities at the state, local, and tribal level to support this. And there are just a couple of differences between the two programs. Kind of two things I wanted to say. Matthew Shepard, James Byrd is really broadly focused. It allows you to focus on a number of different types of hate crimes, and it is crimes that are really committed not just on actual status, but also perceived status, and that can include race, color, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, and disability. Any of those reasons, are things that we recognize victims can be at risk, and we want to offer support services. I think another thing that is particularly unique in the requests that Congress made to us is that they wanted to support the work of law enforcement and prosecutors in really developing strategies, their specialized skills and training and reporting that really those agencies need to undertake. So we definitely want to be able to support that. But Congress really also asked us to focus on strategies around really educating not just the staff, but the community, and also conducting outreach to build stronger relationships, because we know in many cases that folks are not reporting the crimes in the first place, or that by working together, we can do a better job of identifying when a assault or other sort of attack might have a hate crimes component, and we want to know that early to be able to properly investigate and make decisions around charging and be able to effectively prosecute those cases. Again, sometimes working with our federal colleagues to pursue some of the opportunities under the federal hate crimes laws as well. So the idea really with that program is to be very collaborative. The second thing I wanted to say is we also recognize the significant increase that we're seeing in hate crimes. And by statute, the funding for the Shepard-Byrd program is limited to $300,000. And there may be places that are really dealing with very significant increases in hate crime or larger jurisdictions that might require more resources. So our acting director, Kristen Mahoney, made a personal commitment to leverage some other funding that we have available that allows us to deal with precipitous kinds of increase in crime. And in this case, we're really focused on trying to bring responses as well with regard to hate crimes. And so the collaborative approaches solicitation is really designed to address that.
And Betsy, there is one question in the Q&A.
So I see another question. Go ahead.
Nope, I just wanted to bring your
attention. It says
attention.
that, can you talk about the tech part of the grant? Are we as grantees responsible for having the tech support, or will the grant help us? Oh, great. Okay, better ways to collect data on hate crimes in the country. Yes, I'm so appreciative, Antonio, that you raised this issue. It is a very significant issue. We, have done quite a bit of work at the federal level with the FBI through our new reporting system that replaces UCR data, the NIBR system, to build more capabilities around hate crimes. And so we definitely will plan to partner and work with and leverage assets and resources that are developed there. In addition, I really encourage you, and I'll answer specifically about the grant program, but I really encourage you to take a look at the COPS office report that Umar was discussing earlier, and also consider requesting training for your law enforcement agencies around reporting hate crimes. However, yes, we definitely would encourage, if those are needs, for you to consider including those strategies in your application. But with the selection of a national training and technical assistance provider, we really will be there to work with you to assess your needs at the beginning of the grant, and then to build training and technical assistance strategies that really cut across all of the sites, as well as things that are targeted to your specific needs. So we will definitely be there to support you in implementation. I don't see any other questions at this time, but I will give it just a couple of minutes.
Betsy, it looks like there was one in the chat that came in around just now. Can agencies apply to multiple grants?
Yes, I think applicants could apply to both projects, but I would encourage you to consider submitting activities that have a different focus. As was noted in the information, we do require you to disclose if you're submitting applications under more than one funding opportunity, not just at BJA, but generally. So I would just encourage you to have a little bit of a different focus in the projects, you know, which we would obviously deconflict between the two applications, and we would not fund the same application from the same agency in both funding opportunities. And also, if there's an organization that's interested in applying for training and technical assistance as well as the local work, that would be doable as well.
And Betsy, there are a few more of the questions that came through in the Q&A.
Okay. I think the next question would be, does the Shepard Byrd funding include subject matters like cyber hate crimes? I think we really are looking and recognize that there are a range of ways in which hate crimes occur, and we are very open to being responsive to the needs of jurisdictions, and also recognizing that there might be multiple strategies to prevent and to respond to hate crimes. So yes, that would be within scope. The next question was, do the collaborators need to be identified at the beginning of the application? I think that it would be preferable, but I think if we really want to, again, make resources available for wherever folks are, I think what we would encourage you to do is that if all of those collaborators have not been identified, is to talk about what you're going to be doing to engage and have that dialogue and use this opportunity to build those relationships. The next question is, if we're starting a new program in our police department, can our application include planning as a program activity? I'm so happy you asked this question. I think this is wonderful, and I think sometimes, you know, we kind of jump into action, and I think planning can be extremely effective in both engaging critical partners, but really also BJA has had a long history and could certainly support folks being able to take and gather additional data, whether it is crime data, you know, calls for service, or even dialogue with partners where reporting has been more limited to try and understand the challenges that are faced and to be able to develop a more targeted and effective strategy. So yes, I think we would definitely support a planning period as part of your application. All right. The next question is, can we budget for hate crime education panelists to travel here to educate the community as well as prosecutors? I do believe that some education and training can be included as part of your strategy. I think what you also want to do is to consider and sort of acknowledge as part of that there also will be resources available to you at the national level. Again, we might not be able to come, we probably will plan to come in, you know, as pandemic restrictions are lifting, to be able to come in and do a site visit and maybe do some of those pieces if you're talking about more comprehensive training to a larger community. I think that certainly would be an allowable expense. We also would have potentially webinars and other training tools that we will be making available that could also support those strategies. And I think that is it. I don't see any other questions. Mary Jo,
Betsy,
did I miss any?
There was something in the chat, but the person is going to need to kind of expand on it. the question was any concerns about subawards.
Got
So
you. Yes.
I'm not 100%
no,
sure.
I don't think there's concerns about subawards. Again, we're encouraging a collaborative approach in both of our solicitations. We're also encouraging a collaborative approach and recognize that the expertise needed to do national training and technical assistance, might be best served by having multiple entities involved. A couple things I would say just generally about your budget and subawards. In your program design, and in your capabilities and competencies, you want there to be some clarity about kind of who the players are and their roles and responsibilities, so that when we go to look at the budget and any proposed subawards, it's clear what the purpose for that subaward is and how they're going to contribute to the overall strategy. There is some narrative that's also required in the budget that can kind of reinforce that. I think the second thing that I would say is just to be aware with subawards that there is, kind of a little bit of a separate process and a number of requirements around how subgrants and subawards are made. So I would also encourage you to take some time to take a look at the financial guide and just be aware of what those requirements are heading into the process so that you understand what you're committing to in terms of, competition and any of those requirements in addition to what might be relevant to you in your jurisdiction. And then finally, the other point I would really make about the budget is make sure that what you're asking for in the budget is clearly aligned to the goals of your project. I think that's it. We really appreciate you all making time to attend. We're very excited about the opportunity to really address what we know is a critical need and to bring some new focus and resources to those issues. Looking forward to be able to partner with those of you in the field that do this work every day and are so important, and to really be able to support you as we're really learning along with you. So, I encourage you to consider applying for these funding opportunities and hope that we'll have a chance to work with you in the future.
Betsy, one more question did come in.
Yes, so I see this. Can two different DA's office apply together, two counties next to each other? I do think this is possible. We do not allow two entities to co-apply. One entity has to, by virtue of our financial requirements, submit as what we would call the fiscal agent, but the other district attorney's office could then be a sub-grantee or sub-awardee, depending on kind of how you wanted to handle that relationship. And you all can have an agreement about shared, responsibility and decision-making, other than the fiscal agent, obviously making sure that that sub-grantee or sub-awardee is following the requirements of the grant. But, we really like those ideas. I think sometimes there is an economy of not just money saving, but really by folks coming together, particularly where you might have a little more of a technical kind of case that you're investigating and prosecuting. There's times where I think joining together across several counties makes really good sense. And to me is one of those things that would be an asset that I would, promote that kind of helps you, show a creative idea that we can be considering in the application process.
And Betsy, another question came in through the chat as well. I can read it if you want.
Let me just scroll down here. Yeah, would you please?
Sure. Would it be acceptable to use past members of hate crime groups as a resource? Example, intelligence.
I would definitely encourage you to take some time and look at our financial guides with regard to allowable activities around ways that funding can be used for intelligence and, for example, confidential informant funds and those sorts of things, because there are restrictions. So from a financial perspective, you definitely want to just make sure you're looking at whether the activities you're proposing for someone such as that to be part of your strategy would be allowable. From a strategy perspective, I think, you know, there are definitely precedent for that. And again, we do have quite a bit of background information available currently on the hate crimes website, as well as some of the materials that we mentioned at the COPS office. So you might also just want to take a look at that around recommended practices. Do we have any other questions?
I do not see anything else right now that has come in.
Excellent. Well, again, we're looking forward to reading your applications, and we really wish you the best. I think the last thing I maybe will close with is to just reiterate, we do have a new grants management system. We're on a learning curve. We recognize you're on a learning curve. And, you know, we're sometimes working through a few bugs in the system. So if you do have a question that comes up, please feel free to reach out to both our help desk and also the response center. Umar and I are going to be, you know, monitoring all of those requests just to make sure we can answer questions as they come up. And then heading closer, if we've not been able to get a resolution, just to make sure that that's documented so that if there is a technical issue that limits the application, we can be in a position to consider submission of a late application. And then the second thing I would say is that we do have, you know, it was sort of integrated in our prior system, but we do have sort of this two-part process where you do have to initially register with grants.gov with your SF424 and your lobbying form. And that deadline is on June 29th. So it's 2 weeks before the final deadline. Again, if you're not able to get that in, then unfortunately you won't be able to submit your application for funding. So as Umar expressed earlier, this is just one of those situations where I would really encourage you to go in now. Make sure, you know, your SAM registration and everything you need to be able to kind of do that first step is all in place. You've got your correct information with your authorized representative and your, you know, contacts for registering, and just do that process right now, which shouldn't take too much time. Those forms are pretty short, and then you will just be able to then take your time to focus. If anything comes up, it gives us a little time to be able to work with you. So we appreciate your patience and working through with us, as we're all a little bit on a learning curve this year, with the goal of building a great new system to be able to support you. All right, well, thank you so much for your time today.